The great epochs of our lives are when we gain the courage to rebaptize our evil as what is best in us. Friedrich Nietzsche. This powerful quote sets the tone for understanding Nietzsche's revolutionary philosophy. As we dive deeper into his ideas, one question remains at the forefront. Why does Nietzsche's philosophy still matter today? In today's world, where the battle between strength and weakness continues to shape society, Nietzsche's thoughts have sparked debate and controversy. His ideas, particularly on strength and weakness, are often misunderstood. Many believe Nietzsche despised the weak, but what if there's more to it? What if Nietzsche wasn't merely critiquing the weak, but calling for a transformation of values, shift in perspective about what true strength really means? In this video, we'll explore Nietzsche's views on strength, weakness, and the deeper layers of his philosophy. We'll uncover how his ideas still influence modern thought and why his philosophy challenges us to think about power, values, and individuality in ways that remain relevant today. Stay tuned as we dissect Nietzsche's controversial ideas and unravel the complexities behind his most challenging concepts. By the end, you'll have a clearer understanding of why Nietzsche's philosophy continues to be a beacon of reflection for our time. Nietzsche's critique of traditional morality is one of the cornerstones of his philosophy. For him, the moral systems established by religion, philosophy, and social norms are not grounded in truth, but in the will to control. These systems, he argued, were designed to impose restrictions on human desires and ambitions, molding people into what society deemed acceptable, often at the cost of personal growth, individual power, and creativity. At the heart of Nietzsche's rebellion is the idea that morality isn't about objective truth. Instead, it's about power, control over how people behave, think, and live. Religion, particularly Christianity, became a powerful tool in the hands of the rulers. By promoting ideals like humility, meekness, and submission, traditional morality restrained the natural instincts and desires of individuals. Nietzsche viewed these teachings as a form of slave morality, which served the interests of the weak, keeping them docile and subjugated. But what does Nietzsche mean by slave morality? It refers to a moral code that values traits such as self-denial, patience, and forgiveness, values that uphold the status quo and prevent individuals from expressing their full potential. In contrast, Nietzsche argued for master morality, which was about embracing life, seeking power, and affirming individual will. Master morality encourages self-assertion, strength, and a refusal to be bound by societal limitations. Nietzsche believed that traditional moral systems suppressed the will to power, the inner drive to grow, achieve, and shape the world according to one's own values. This repression, he claimed, led to stagnation and prevented humanity from achieving its full potential. As we move forward, we'll see how Nietzsche's rejection of traditional morality paved the way for a new vision of human potential, one where the individual is free to create, express, and shape the world in their own image. This vision still challenges us today, urging us to ask, are we truly living for our own values, or are we constrained by the outdated morality of those who came before us? When Nietzsche referred to the weak, he wasn't talking about physical weakness, but a deeper, more insidious form, mental and moral weakness. For Nietzsche, weakness wasn't a lack of physical power, but an inability to exercise one's will, a failure to assert oneself in the world. He saw the weak as individuals who lacked the strength of character and will to rise above their circumstances and embrace life fully. Nietzsche made a clear distinction between passivity and true strength of will. Passivity, for him, was the hallmark of weakness. It represented a failure to engage actively with life, a resignation to external forces rather than the ability to shape one's own fate. The weak person doesn't fight for their desires or values. Instead, they submit, let life happen to them, and accept things as they are. On the other hand, strength of will, in Nietzsche's view, was the ability to actively shape one's existence, to assert oneself despite obstacles, and to create meaning in a world that may seem indifferent. Strength wasn't about being aggressive or forceful in a physical sense, but about having the inner drive to push beyond limitations, to constantly evolve, and to make choices that reflect one's true desires. Nietzsche believed that weakness was a self-imposed condition. It wasn't something inherent to a person, but a mindset, a way of approaching life that allowed fear, doubt, and external influences to control one's actions. The weak person, according to Nietzsche, allowed societal norms, religious teachings, or a fear of conflict to dictate their decisions. Instead of cultivating their will to power and embracing challenges, they chose the safety of conformity, the comfort of inaction, and the easy path of submission. In essence, Nietzsche saw weakness as a mental and moral choice. It was a decision to reject personal power, to deny the possibility of growth and greatness, and to submit to external pressures rather than assert one's own will. The truly strong, for Nietzsche, were those who could rise above these influences, trust in their own instincts, and embrace the challenges that came their way with the confidence to shape their destiny. At the core of Nietzsche's critique of traditional morality lies the distinction between master morality and slave morality. These two opposing systems represent fundamentally different ways of viewing the world, defining values, and determining what it means to live a successful, meaningful life. Master morality originates from the aristocratic, dominant classes, those who have power and are able to shape the world around them according to their own values. Nietzsche's masters are individuals who assert themselves, embrace their desires, and do not feel the need to justify their actions according to external moral standards. In this system, qualities like strength, courage, creativity, and independence are valued above all else. Success is defined by personal achievement, power, and the ability to overcome obstacles. On the other hand, slave morality emerged as a response to the dominance of the masters. It developed primarily among the oppressed, those without power, who were forced to adopt values that helped them survive and cope with their subjugation. In this moral framework, qualities like meekness, humility, self-sacrifice, and compassion are elevated as virtues. Failure to succeed is seen as a form of weakness, while submission to the will of others is justified as a moral good. Nietzsche's philosophy asks us to question which values we are living by, master morality or slave morality, and whether these values are helping us to grow and assert our true selves or limiting us and keeping us confined to external expectations. The challenge, according to Nietzsche, is to transcend both systems and create a new set of values based on the affirmation of life, the pursuit of personal power, and the courage to live authentically. When Nietzsche declared that God is dead, he wasn't making a literal statement about the death of a deity, but pointing to a profound shift in Western society. Nietzsche recognized that the Enlightenment, scientific progress, and the rise of secularism had led to the erosion of religious belief and the collapse of traditional moral structures. For Nietzsche, the death of God symbolized the end of an era, a time when religious authority could no longer dictate morality. It represented the collapse of a belief system that had once provided meaning, purpose, and structure to people's lives. Without God, society was left to grapple with the loss of an objective moral compass. Nietzsche didn't see this as a moment of triumph, but as a crisis. The foundations that had once grounded people's lives were now crumbling, leaving behind a void. This moral disintegration had profound consequences. On the one hand, it led to a sense of freedom from rigid, externally imposed values. On the other hand, this freedom also brought existential anxiety. If there is no God, no universal moral truth, then how do we find meaning in life? Without any guiding principles, individuals risked falling into nihilism, the belief that life is inherently meaningless and that values are arbitrary. Although the death of God was a crisis, Nietzsche saw it as an opportunity. As well, he believed that with the collapse of traditional morality, human beings had the chance to create their own values, to become the creators of their own future. For Nietzsche, this was not an easy task. It required individuals to reject the comfort of inherited beliefs and to embrace the challenge of forging their own path. For Nietzsche, one of the most corrosive forces in human behavior is resentment, or ressentiment, which plays a crucial role in the formation of slave morality. Resentment arises when individuals feel powerless or oppressed and direct their anger and frustration inward rather than confronting the source of their suffering. This internalized bitterness gives rise to a moral system that justifies weakness and victimhood, ultimately hindering personal growth and the expression of one's full potential. Nietzsche saw resentment as the driving force behind slave morality. The oppressed, unable to act upon their frustrations directly, create a moral system that reinterprets their suffering as virtuous. Instead of acknowledging their powerlessness and seeking to overcome it, they turn their perceived weaknesses into strengths by constructing a value system that glorifies meekness, humility, and suffering. This process of revaluation, where the weak turn their condition into a moral superiority, is the foundation of slave morality. Those who cannot assert their will to power begin to view their victimhood as morally righteous. Resentment is not only a response to suffering, but a mechanism through which the weak justify their inability to act. At the heart of Nietzsche's philosophy lies a concept that he considered the driving force of human existence: the will to power. Unlike traditional moral frameworks that emphasize submission and sacrifice, Nietzsche's will to power represents a force of growth, creativity, and self-assertion. It is the fundamental drive to overcome challenges, assert one's will, and shape the world according to one's own desires and values. The will to power is often misunderstood as merely a desire for domination or control over others. However, for Nietzsche, it goes beyond this superficial interpretation. The will to power is about self-mastery and the ability to shape one's own life. It is the internal force that drives an individual to grow, to evolve, and to constantly push beyond limitations, whether physical, mental, or moral. Nietzsche believed that the will to power was the fundamental essence of life itself. He argued that all human behavior, from the most mundane to the most extraordinary, is an expression of this will. Whether we are pursuing wealth, status, love, knowledge, or art, the driving force behind these desires is the will to power. One of Nietzsche's most famous and controversial ideas is the Übermensch, often translated as the Overman or Superman. This concept represents the ideal individual who transcends traditional morality, creating their own values and living life according to their will. It's a cornerstone of Nietzsche's philosophy, challenging our understanding of human potential and urging us to rethink what it means to live authentically. The Übermensch isn't merely a superior human in terms of physical strength or intellect. Instead, this figure symbolizes someone who has broken free from the moral constraints imposed by society, religion, and culture. The Übermensch lives authentically, unshackled by external expectations, and is constantly evolving, shaping their own destiny. For Nietzsche, the Übermensch embodies the ultimate expression of the will to power. This individual doesn't accept external values or norms. They create their own morality, guided by inner strength, creativity, and a relentless desire for personal growth. By rejecting traditional notions of good and evil, the Übermensch defines what is valuable for themselves, regardless of societal approval or disapproval. They embrace life fully, transforming challenges and uncertainties into opportunities for growth. Nietzsche believed the world needed fewer followers who conform to societal norms and more individuals who embrace their power, leading lives true to themselves. The Übermensch, in all its complexity, represents the possibility of human evolution, a vision of individuals who live not by inherited morals, but by the strength of their own will. Nietzsche's philosophy remains a profound challenge to our understanding of morality, strength, and individuality. His ideas push us to question the values we live by and to consider whether we are truly living for ourselves or merely conforming to external expectations. As we reflect on Nietzsche's concepts, from the will to power to the Übermensch, we are reminded of the importance of self-assertion, creativity, and the courage to define our own path. Nietzsche's philosophy isn't just a critique of the past. It's a call to action for the present, urging us to embrace our potential and shape our own future. Friedrich Nietzsche's philosophy stands as a bold challenge to traditional religious values, particularly Christianity. He was deeply critical of Christian morality, which he believed perpetuated weakness in individuals and society. Nietzsche's critique of Christianity is intricately tied to his concept of slave morality, offering a provocative perspective on the psychological and societal impact of religious values. At the core of Nietzsche's critique is the idea that Christianity promotes a morality of weakness. He argued that Christian values, such as humility, meekness, and self-sacrifice, suppress the natural instincts and desires that drive human beings. According to Nietzsche, Christianity celebrated qualities that undermined the will to power, the force he believed was essential for life and human achievement. Christianity, in Nietzsche's view, encouraged individuals to deny their instincts, particularly those driving ambition, power, and greatness. Instead of embracing life's challenges, Christianity emphasized suffering, submission, and the promise of salvation in the afterlife. By focusing on selflessness and subjugation to a higher authority, Nietzsche argued that Christianity held individuals back from achieving greatness in the present life. Nietzsche contended that Christianity's focus on suffering and submission glorified weakness. The doctrine of original sin reinforced the idea that humans are inherently flawed and need salvation. For Nietzsche, this narrative promoted a mindset where suffering was seen as virtuous and the rejection of earthly pleasures was deemed noble. He famously stated that Christianity had turned suffering into a virtue, urging believers to accept pain, hardship, and even humiliation as a means of spiritual growth. This emphasis on suffering led to a culture of self-denial, where individuals suppressed their desires and aspirations in favor of humility and meekness. Nietzsche believed this moral framework undermined the individual's potential for self-realization and greatness. By prioritizing the afterlife and divine approval over earthly ambition and strength, Christianity weakened the natural instincts that could propel individuals toward personal growth and achievement. Nietzsche argued that Christian values had a profound psychological impact on society. He believed that Christianity's emphasis on suffering, guilt, and self-punishment fostered a slave mentality in individuals. Rather than pursuing power and greatness, many people internalized feelings of guilt and inadequacy, believing their natural desires were sinful or immoral. This psychological conditioning, Nietzsche contended, created a submissive and resentful mindset that diminished the human spirit. He viewed the Christian focus on humility and forgiveness as a way of softening natural human instincts and dulling the drive to achieve greatness. The notion of sin and the associated guilt prevented people from embracing their true potential and living authentically. Furthermore, Nietzsche observed that Christianity promoted a culture of victimhood, where individuals saw themselves as powerless, reliant on divine mercy for redemption. This, Nietzsche argued, was a far cry from the master morality he championed, a morality that celebrates strength, self-empowerment, and the rejection of victimhood. Nietzsche's critique of Christianity was rooted in his broader philosophy that morality should not be about submission, guilt, and suffering, but about the expression of the will to power and the embrace of life's challenges. He believed that Christian morality created a psychological burden that prevented individuals from achieving their full potential and living authentically. For Nietzsche, Christianity represented a religion of weakness, glorifying suffering and submission, at the expense of strength, ambition, and personal growth. In this sense, Christianity became a symbol of the very weakness Nietzsche sought to transcend through his philosophy of self-overcoming and the creation of individual values. Nietzsche's critique of Christianity and his exploration of Slav morality provide a foundation for understanding his broader views on strength and weakness. But how do these ideas apply to our modern world? Let's now shift our focus to Chapter 9, Strength and Weakness in Today's Society, where we'll examine how Nietzsche's philosophy remains strikingly relevant in contemporary culture. Nietzsche's ideas about master morality and slave morality, articulated over a century ago, continue to resonate in modern culture. From politics and business to social justice movements, his philosophy offers a profound lens through which we can examine the dynamics of power, morality, and societal values today. In modern society, we still witness the clash between master morality and slave morality. Master morality celebrates strength, power, and individual achievement, qualities embodied by successful entrepreneurs like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. These individuals create new markets, disrupt industries, and challenge societal norms, exemplifying the will to power. On the other hand, slave morality, rooted in resentment, victimhood, and the glorification of humility, dominates in areas like politics and social justice movements. While these movements aim to address inequality, Nietzsche might argue that their emphasis on victimhood can inadvertently reinforce weakness rather than inspire individuals to rise above their circumstances. In politics, Nietzsche's critique can be seen in both left-wing and right-wing ideologies. Some advocate for policies that empower individuals through self-sufficiency and entrepreneurship, while others prioritize collective rights and social programs. Nietzsche might view the latter as reinforcing slave morality by fostering dependence rather than encouraging personal strength. In business, corporate culture often rewards strength and ambition, qualities associated with master morality. However, the growing emphasis on corporate social responsibility can sometimes reflect slave morality if it prioritizes social expectations over true personal power. Nietzsche raised a critical question. Does society reward weakness rather than cultivate strength? In many modern systems, mediocrity and victimhood are often celebrated over personal achievement. While movements aimed at helping the disadvantaged are essential, Nietzsche would argue that they should not nurture entitlement or dependence. Instead, society should encourage individuals to take responsibility for their lives, cultivate inner strength, and overcome obstacles through willpower and resilience. Nietzsche's ideas about master morality and slave morality continue to shape modern society. While strength and personal achievement are celebrated in some areas, there is also a tendency to reward weakness through victimhood and dependence. Nietzsche's philosophy challenges us to cultivate strength and self-empowerment, urging us to embrace life's challenges rather than avoid them. By understanding and applying his critique of modern values, we can create a world that fosters personal growth, authenticity, and self-determination. As we conclude this exploration of Nietzsche's ideas, it's clear that his philosophy remains as relevant today as it was in his time. Whether we're examining the role of religion or the dynamics of modern society, Nietzsche's insights challenge us to reflect on our values and strive for greatness. Stay tuned for the next part of our journey, where we'll delve deeper into Nietzsche's vision of the Übermensch and its implications for the future. Friedrich Nietzsche is often misrepresented in modern discourse. Many mistakenly label him as a nihilist or even a supporter of extreme ideologies. But Nietzsche's philosophy is far more nuanced than these caricatures suggest. His critique of traditional values and morality wasn't an endorsement of meaninglessness or chaos. It was a call for a new form of ethics based on strength, individuality, and the will to power. Understanding this crucial distinction is essential to truly grasp Nietzsche's revolutionary ideas. Contrary to popular belief, Nietzsche wasn't promoting a worldview devoid of meaning. Yes, he famously declared, "God is dead," but this wasn't a proclamation of hopelessness. Instead, Nietzsche was acknowledging the collapse of traditional moral systems and urging humanity to create its own values in a world that had lost its old sense of meaning. What Nietzsche sought was not a life without purpose, but the creation of a new ethics, one that celebrates strength, creativity, and individual will. His philosophy centers on affirming life, no matter how chaotic or challenging it may be. Rather than succumbing to despair, Nietzsche envisioned individuals who embrace life's struggles and create meaning through action. He believed in the power of the will to power, the drive to shape one's destiny, without relying on external moral systems or authority. One of the most damaging misunderstandings of Nietzsche's work came with the rise of extremist ideologies, particularly Nazism and fascism. These groups co-opted Nietzsche's ideas, twisting his concepts of strength, the Übermensch, and the will to power to justify violent authoritarianism and racial superiority. But Nietzsche was vehemently opposed to anti-Semitism, nationalism, and any form of oppression. His personal letters and writings reveal his disdain for the very ideologies that later claimed his philosophy as their own. The Nazis, for instance, distorted Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch, turning it into a justification for racial purity and dominance. However, Nietzsche's Übermensch wasn't a Superman meant to dominate others. It was an individual who transcends conventional morality to create their own values, free from societal constraints. This extreme misinterpretation led to a dangerous association between Nietzsche's philosophy and oppressive ideologies, an association he would have never endorsed. To truly understand Nietzsche, we must separate his vision of empowerment from the misapplications of his philosophy by extremists. Nietzsche's work calls for the liberation of the individual, a rejection of herd morality, and the cultivation of strength, creativity, and self-actualization. His philosophy was never about exploiting or oppressing others, but about empowering people to rise above their circumstances and embrace life fully. Nietzsche wasn't advocating for destruction. He was advocating for transformation. He wanted humanity to create new values in the absence of traditional dogmatic systems, pushing us to become the best versions of ourselves through courage, creativity, and strength of will. Nietzsche's philosophy was widely misunderstood, especially when his ideas were distorted by extremists seeking to justify their oppressive agendas. Nietzsche wasn't a nihilist. He was a visionary who sought to create a new, strength-based ethics that would empower individuals to shape their own destiny. Understanding Nietzsche's true message is essential, as it provides a powerful blueprint for embracing life's challenges and creating meaning in a world that constantly changes. By separating the truth of Nietzsche's ideas from their misapplications, we can fully appreciate the relevance of his work today. In today's society, many individuals unknowingly find themselves trapped in slave morality, a system of values that prioritizes humility, meekness, and conformity over strength, ambition, and individuality. Nietzsche's philosophy offers a path toward liberation from this moral framework, encouraging individuals to break free and embrace a life of personal empowerment. But how can you tell if you're trapped in slave morality and what steps can you take to start thinking independently? The first step in breaking free is self-awareness. Nietzsche argued that slave morality is rooted in resentment, victimhood, and a passive acceptance of societal norms that suppress the will to power. Suppose you often find yourself deferring to the opinions of others, seeking validation from external sources, or feeling resentment toward those who are more successful or assertive. In that case, you might be influenced by slave morality. Other signs include a tendency to avoid conflict, a fear of standing out or asserting yourself, and a deep-seated belief that suffering and self-sacrifice are virtues. If your sense of self-worth is primarily determined by how much you conform to societal expectations, it's a strong indicator that you're living according to the values of slave morality. Breaking free from slave morality requires a shift in perspective and a commitment to independent thought. Here are some key steps to help you begin this journey. Start by critically examining the beliefs and values you've been taught. Why do you believe in the things you do? Are they your own beliefs, or have they been imposed on you by society, religion, or tradition? Often, we follow societal norms without questioning them. Challenge the assumptions that guide your decisions and actions. Are these assumptions based on a desire for personal growth, or are they motivated by fear of judgment and failure? Celebrate your uniqueness and strive to make decisions based on your own desires, passions, and ambitions. Nietzsche believed that true greatness comes from embracing your own identity, not from conforming to the expectations of others. Stop blaming external factors for your problems. Embrace the idea that you are the creator of your own destiny. Nietzsche's will to power is about taking control of your life and shaping it according to your own values and goals, not the values that society imposes on you. Embracing the will to power is about actively creating and asserting yourself in the world. Here are a few ways to incorporate this mindset into your daily life. The will to power thrives on ambition and personal achievement. Set goals that challenge you, push your limits, and require you to grow, whether in your career, relationships, or personal development. Every day, take small steps to push yourself out of your comfort zone. Whether it's speaking up for yourself, taking a calculated risk, or confronting a fear, these actions help build strength and confidence. When you live according to the will to power, you acknowledge that your success or failure is a direct result of your own choices. Take full responsibility for your actions and their consequences. Nietzsche believed that strength wasn't just about physical power, it was also about mental and emotional resilience. Practice self-discipline, embrace challenges, and learn to overcome obstacles with determination and grit. Breaking free from slave morality isn't easy, but it's essential for anyone who wants to live a life of authenticity, strength, and personal empowerment. By becoming aware of the limitations of traditional moral systems, questioning societal norms, and embracing the will to power, you can create a life that's truly your own. Nietzsche's call for a new kind of morality, one that celebrates strength, independence, and individuality, remains as relevant today as ever. The journey to embracing your true potential begins with the decision to break free from weakness and live life on your own terms. Friedrich Nietzsche's philosophy is often misunderstood, especially when it comes to his views on suffering. While many see suffering as something to avoid at all costs, Nietzsche saw it as an essential part of personal growth and the path to greatness. According to Nietzsche, suffering isn't something to be feared or avoided. It's a necessary force that shapes us, strengthens us, and pushes us toward becoming the best version of ourselves. Nietzsche famously stated, "What does not kill me makes me stronger," encapsulating his view that suffering is a vital component of human development. In Nietzsche's eyes, growth is impossible without struggle, and true strength is forged in the fire of hardship. He believed that suffering challenges our limits and forces us to expand our capabilities, allowing us to transcend weakness and mediocrity. The human tendency to avoid suffering, to seek comfort and ease, creates individuals who lack resilience, discipline, and the ability to face challenges head-on. For Nietzsche, those who shy away from pain are not only denying themselves the chance to grow, but also submitting to the forces of weakness that prevent them from achieving greatness. In today's world, we are often taught that happiness and comfort are the ultimate goals. We strive to eliminate discomfort, pain, and struggle from our lives, believing that they are obstacles to happiness. However, Nietzsche would argue that this mindset only leads to mediocrity. When we avoid struggle, we avoid the opportunity for self-discovery and personal development. Without challenge, we become stagnant, content with the superficial comforts of life, but ultimately weak in the face of adversity. Nietzsche rejected the modern notion of easy success. He argued that true fulfillment comes not from avoiding suffering, but from confronting it and overcoming it. Struggle, in Nietzsche's view, is the crucible in which we are forged into individuals of strength, character, and purpose. Throughout history, many of the greatest figures embraced suffering as part of their journey toward success. These individuals didn't shy away from hardship. They used it as fuel to propel themselves forward. Nietzsche's own life was a testament to his belief in the power of suffering. Struggling with debilitating health issues for much of his life, including migraines and vision problems, Nietzsche continued to write and develop his philosophical ideas. His suffering became a driving force behind his insightful critiques of culture and morality. Da Vinci faced numerous struggles throughout his career, both personal and professional. From rejection to poverty, he overcame immense obstacles to become one of the greatest minds in history. His relentless pursuit of knowledge and creativity, despite the challenges he faced, led to unparalleled achievements in art, science, and engineering. Edison's famous quote, "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration," reflects his understanding of the role of struggle and success. Edison faced countless failures and setbacks while inventing the light bulb, but his willingness to endure these challenges ultimately led to groundbreaking innovations. Oprah's early life was marked by intense hardship, including poverty and abuse. Despite these struggles, she went on to become one of the most influential media moguls in history. Oprah herself has often spoken about how her struggles shaped her character and her desire to help others. Mandela's life is perhaps one of the most powerful examples of suffering leading to greatness. After spending 27 years in prison, Mandela emerged as a symbol of strength and resilience, ultimately leading South Africa to end apartheid. His unwavering commitment to justice, despite years of suffering, changed the course of history. Nietzsche's belief in the necessity of suffering for growth remains a crucial insight in today's world. While it may be tempting to seek comfort and avoid struggle, those who do so are likely to live lives of mediocrity, never realizing their full potential. Suffering, when embraced as a tool for personal growth, can unlock the deepest reserves of strength and determination. Whether it's through the trials faced by great figures in history or the personal struggles each of us experiences, Nietzsche reminds us that true greatness lies in our ability to endure, learn, and rise above the challenges that life presents. Embrace suffering, not as a burden, but as a path to your greatest self. Nietzsche's philosophy is like a lightning bolt, electrifying, divisive, and impossible to ignore. Revered by some and reviled by others, his ideas have sparked intense debates among scholars, philosophers, and readers alike. At the heart of his philosophy lies a radical challenge to break free from traditional moral and social norms and carve out your own path. But this very challenge has led many to question the ethical implications of his ideas. Does Nietzsche's philosophy justify oppression, selfishness, or even tyranny? Is his celebration of strength a dangerous endorsement of cruelty? In this chapter, we'll dive into the most common criticisms of Nietzsche's philosophy, unpack their validity, and explore why Nietzsche's vision was not about tyranny, but about the cultivation of strength, individualism, and ethical self-mastery. Critics argue that Nietzsche's Übermensch and will to power could be interpreted as endorsements of domination. However, Nietzsche's vision was about self-mastery, not the subjugation of others. Nietzsche's emphasis on individualism is often misunderstood as egotism. In reality, he advocated for self-creation and authenticity, not the exploitation of others. Nietzsche's critique of traditional compassion was aimed at fostering strength-based empathy, not indifference to suffering. Nietzsche's philosophy is about self-overcoming and ethical self-mastery. His ideas challenge us to rise above mediocrity and create our own values, not to dominate or oppress others. By embracing Nietzsche's true message, we can find a path to strength, authenticity, and personal growth.